Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the WISE debate, which is Rethinking Education and Development. My name is Reeta Roy. I'm the President and CEO of the MasterCard Foundation, and I'm going to serve as the moderator for our panel. Let me take a minute to set up the topic and the framework for our discussion today, and then I will introduce our distinguished panelists. As we know, and as stated at the plenary session, education is the cornerstone of progress, in fact, the cornerstone of all development. And education is intended to empower people, to close those gaps in society, and to increase equity, particularly for people living in poverty. And therefore, education needs to be relevant to all sectors, whether it's healthcare, job creation, the environment, the legal status of different people. Education needs to be relevant to society. Yet in so many countries, as we know, education is not relevant, and learners are not acquiring the skills that they need in order to be productive. This panel will seek to encourage and to explore a new vision of education, and a new vision where education is a contributor to social progress, where we need to ensure that education strategies are also connected and interfacing with economic and social strategies. So let me first begin to introduce our panelists, and one in particular needs no introduction. We are so thrilled to have Sir Fazle Abed, the founder of BRAC and today's laureate of the WISE Prize, here with us. And as you've heard, Sir Abed leads the world's largest organization, development organization, which serves over 110 million people around the world. And he has been distinguished in many, many ways, including with today's prize. Sitting next to him is Carole Bellamy, who is the chair of the board of directors of the Global Partnership for Education, previously known as the Education for All, the Fast Track Initiative for Education. Carole, too, has had a distinguished career both in private life, in the world of finance, and in public service. And many of you will know her in her role as a leader of UNICEF, and most recently as the CEO of World Learning. Next to Carole is Professor Georges Haddad, who is the Director of Education Research and Foresight in the education sector at UNESCO. He has been a distinguished professor of mathematics for a number of years at many famed universities in France, most notably of the Sorbonne. Professor Haddad is also the author of numerous publications on education and society. So we have a panel who's going to bring a number of wise perspectives on how we integrate education in the area of development. The first question I'm going to pose to everyone here is that if you could imagine the world in 50 years, what kind of economy would we have? What kind of world do we want to see? And what's the role of education in creating the economy and the world of the future? So let's start with Carole.
Thank you very much. Despite the fact that Jeff Sachs said that technology was going to solve everything, I managed to not get these questions from our chair until about half an hour ago or 2 hours ago. So I'll offer some comments. Maybe more toward less on the economies. Maybe in 50 years, the US and European economies may have turned around, but more on skills and what one would be looking for. So I'm going to throw out 3 words: generalist, borderless, and cross-cultural. By generalists, I mean, I think that education systems are going to have to recognize that because of the incredible change that will take place at even increasing speed, that that the capacity to educate, to create the human being who is more of a generalist. Obviously, the person has to have skills. We'll still have need for skills in health and in education and in business and in science, and they won't go away. They may change, but the absolute specialist will need to change so often that they're really going to need to be a generalist. And so in my view, the kind of skills we're talking about there are problem-solving skills, they are critical thinking skills, and they are entrepreneurial skills. I think too little attention is put to entrepreneurial skills, which I think will have to play much more of a role going forward, and probably should have in the past. Borderless. I say borderless because we live already, and we'll live increasingly in a borderless world, whether it's financial borderless, education borderless, or just borderless. That doesn't mean everybody will be moving around. People may not move at all, but the person they're talking to from one moment to the next may not be anywhere near where they are. The teacher they are learning from, the art they are seeing, the business transaction they are engaging with. Physical institutions will become, will in many ways disappear. There'll still be buildings, presumably, that people will go into, but less will be done there and more will be done and so we're going to have be skilled more to deal borderless. And my third word, with two words, cross-cultural. To me, global citizens. Our education has to better support a human being who indeed can engage globally. If and I'm not talking about how many stamps there are in a passport. If that person never whether that person is getting on a plane to go to the Middle East, or that person is getting on their bicycle to go across town. Nevertheless, we are all going to have to engage in a much more global world, even if we don't move. And the skills need to do that. The tolerance, the respect, the cross-cultural skills, even language skills. To my own country, which is a multilingual country, vastly racing to become monolingual, going in the wrong direction. Even language skills will play a role. So those are my thoughts in terms of what we should be looking at in our education system going forward.
Fantastic. George, how do you see the future?
It's difficult to see the future and to be a soothsayer. And as I am not confident in my English, I've prepared just a short paragraph which represents what I would like to say, especially, and then I will speak directly. School children and students today find it progressively more difficult to see and believe that time passed at school means accumulating cognitive capital for the future. The absence or lack of meaningful portrayals of professions deriving even more from the service or cultural sectors requires such powers of imagination that many young people cannot see their way to devoting time and effort to attaining as yet unidentifiable objectives. The link between education and the trades and professions has been lost, just as stable and well-known occupations have been replaced by an infinite variety of tasks that defy classification and are doomed to an uncertain future. Children still play at being shopkeepers and soldiers, to occupations that will be with us for some time, but we have yet to see them pretending to be engineers, entrepreneurs, researchers, or financial analysts. The number of occupational types has multiplied since the start of the Industrial Revolution, again since the Second World War, and above all, since the advent of the computer age. Education, the prime factor on which the whole show directly or indirectly depends, has to aim not only at all young people, but also at the population as a whole, in the case of continuing, often termed lifelong education, and in so doing, take account of those constraints. I think those represent the challenge of education, not only for today, but for tomorrow. And as Carole said, we need to address inter- and pluridisciplinary approach of education, but also keep in mind that we need also specialists. We cannot offer to deliver only this interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary approach of education, but we need engineers who are real engineers, doctors who are real doctors, chemists who are chemists, mathematicians who are mathematicians, but also give a supplement of soul to education today beyond school system. Education is not only related to school system, it's all over life, all over lifelong learning education at school, at home, in industry, in companies, through medias. And I think that we have to think how to give, as a French philosopher used to say, a supplement of soul to our education system and education challenges.
Very beautiful. Supplement to the soul.
I agree with both my fellow presenters before me. I think in next 50 years, there's going to be a tremendous change in terms of the education, the way we provide education to our children. Firstly, I don't think we will provide school education the way we have organized school systems and college systems. They will probably disappear in 50 years. There will be learning centers, whether they're at home or in clubs or other social forums. Learning would be done through other processes, not necessarily teacher teaching a class. What I agreed totally with Jeffrey Sachs this morning's comments. He said that the ICT, the information technology that we now have in our fingertips and the way it's developing, the best educational opportunity could be provided to the remotest corner of the earth without paying much for it. So, children in the remote villages getting the best teacher teaching is a class in Bangladesh, in Bangla maybe, or if he's learning in English, the best teacher at the best school in the United States or France should be able to teach that class, because it will be available through internet to any remotest corner of the earth. So I see educational processes becoming available, the best of the classes available to everybody. So there will be a kind of, in 50 years, the learning opportunities will open up for everybody, the poor, rich, everybody. So that's one area that I see a wonderful opportunity, which didn't exist for poor countries before. We always worried about how to train our teachers. Are they competent enough? Are they supervised well? All kinds of things will go, and new opportunities will come with new kind of challenges of seeing that the best education takes place, children learn and operate effectively, they are socialized properly, all kinds of areas like that. Now, I'd like to tell a story about education and the way it is played over the last few centuries. I was getting an honorary degree from a Canadian university called Queen's University in Canada, and in my class, or the degree giving occasion, I had another person getting a degree in history, and he did a study of 16th century European institutions and looked at 500 16th century European institutions and found only 33 survive today. What are these 33 institutions which survived from 16th century Europe? He found 29 of them are universities, 2 churches, 1 parliament, and 1 business. what are these 29 universities? It's Oxford, Cambridge, Bologna, Sorbonne, Uppsala, Leiden, Heidelberg. These are the universities which. So why universities survive over centuries and businesses don't? He speculated that maybe universities created leaders, and all societies needed leaders, or universities have been able to respond to the evolving needs of societies in a way that others didn't, and that's why they survived. So education has had a long desire. Most countries desired good education, good leaders for their leaders anyway. But nowadays we want good citizens, not just leaders. We want our citizens to be well educated so that they can perform better in the world, in the globalized economy. So it is a democratic education that we want, or education is democratized. We want all our children to be educated well and perform well, and perform in the global arena as well as everybody else. So that's what the challenge is for the next 50 years. And I don't want to speculate too much as to what is going to happen in the next 50 years in terms of technology, climate change and all that. But I can see, for example, the entire Siberian ice is, the snow is going to melt away. There'll be tremendous, huge prairie of where you can produce lots of food for everybody. So one sees problems of climate change, but also process of climate change too. So I think the world will somehow or other deal with all these situations quite well. I'm hopeful that things will